Good
All
morning,
right.
everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. I'm Emilee Gilpin. I'm the director of First Nations Forward, and I'm so grateful to be here today with Gerry Oldman. And Gerry, would you please introduce yourself for folks who are watching today?
Ah, Anthapa Sahilsit from the Coast Salish people laid a name on me and they call me Sahilsit.
Mm.
I'm also known as Patsay in Statlium territory. That's where I'm from, Statlium territory, in a small place called Chalat. And I'm also known as Quallam with the Newhulk people. And AKA Gerry Oldman or Gerald Oldman, AKA Gerry Oldman. When we first got our English names, and my dad's side, they gave him the name Patrick Oldman. And it changed again, and they said Oldman.
Mm.
So it was something that we lived through when they took our names and they started to assimilate us into their
Mhm.
societies. But people call me Gerry or Sahilthit or Patsay
Mm.
or Quallam,
Mm.
so, or my friend or uncle, I'm okay with all of it.
Mm. Well, Gerry, I'm so happy that you've agreed to have a conversation, and I know, I'm grateful that I was able to share a little bit about myself and First Nations Forward, so you know a little bit of the trouble that you're getting into today. But today I've been feeling grateful. I've been looking forward to this conversation, Gerry, because I don't know if you've been seeing the news, but there's been a lot of riots happening in Minneapolis in response to the murder of an innocent Black man, and it's one of many. As you know, this is something that happens. And I've been seeing within my community and within myself and family and friends, there's a lot of emotions coming up. There's a lot of rage, a lot of helplessness, a lot of sadness. And I know you've dealt with all of these emotions before, and you talk about them on the Teachings on the Air podcast, a podcast that you're the host of, which is just brilliant. It's a beautiful space on the air for your, sharing teachings and medicine. But I'm wondering if we could just get right into it, and if you could talk a little bit about your experience working with these negative emotions, rage, grief, helplessness, and any thoughts that you might have around how to work with those emotions in a good way.
Yes, I grew up. Oh, I can hear an echo there.
Let
Can
me
you
mute
hear?
myself.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I grew up in a residential school, but before that, I was in a wonderful home. I had wonderful parents and siblings, and we were taught to live together, work together, be together. That was, I'll call it the old way or the good way. Then all of a sudden, I'm taken out of that environment into residential school, which is a totally different environment. It was ruled with terror. They terrorized the students to keep everybody down, manageable, because you got 500-600 children in these big buildings, and I tell people, when they turn off a light, you can hear a pin drop. So I grew up in that kind of an atmosphere. And then you throw in violence and sexual abuse and stuff like that. So once I left her, of course, I was traumatized at that time, but I'm carrying that trauma with me. Trauma means to be wounded. That's the actual literal meaning of the word trauma, to be wounded. So what was wounded for Gerry? Of course, my mind and my body were wounded. My mind by the negative talk. It was such a powerful assimilation process to diss anything indigenous, to convince us that this is the way, this is civilization, this Christianity, this way of living. If it was just that, probably my life would have been more manageable. But you throw in physical violence and sexual abuse, plus the vocalization, of who we were as a people, that we come from an inferior race. That had a profound impact on me, and I know many of my cohort. So when we left there, we had that post-trauma, that post-wounding. That means we're still carrying the wound. I was carrying the wound in my mind and my body. So when people are wounded like that and they don't process it, they fall into these parent negative emotions of anger, rage against a machine, all that stuff. It's just a rage. Then there's fear or anxiety. The biggest fear was, am I good enough? Was it my fault? I'm afraid of making mistakes, because when you make a mistake in that education system that we went through, it was ruled by fear. We were afraid to make a mistake. You make a mistake, bang, you get struck across the face, and the ears, and as a child, your head's just ringing. So that conditions you to be afraid, to have anxiety. So when I left, I had that anger, that fear, then also that depression. Those are the three parent emotions from people being traumatized. I know it because I lived through it. It was a lived experience for me. So when I left there, grade 12, I graduated. And I said, oh, I'm free now. No more residential school. But my mind still remembered, my body remembered. That's the part for all of us to understand, that our body remembers too. If you've been physically assaulted and raped or something, your body remembers as well as my mind. So when I left there, of course, I looked for the escapes. Because inherently, as a human being, we want to be happy. You don't want to be serene. We want to enjoy life. But when you've been traumatized and you're not treated for it, that wound, we literally look at it as my mind being wounded and it's not treated. Of course, it just gets worse as time goes on. Like if I get a cut here and I don't treat it, and then, it'll get infected, and eventually it could take my whole arm, take my life. When my mind wasn't treated, and people weren't saying, "No, Gerry, you're okay. It wasn't your fault. You're just a child, for God's sake." And nobody wanted to talk against institutions of the federal government and the church, because they're big institutions. They're institutions that people embrace in this country called Canada. Because they were, as history went on, in 1995, all of a sudden, they became liable as institutions because they knew what was happening to the children in their care. They did nothing to stop it. So there I am, all these years, no one recognizing and acknowledging what happened. People would say, oh, there's something wrong with Gerry, he's a fall down drunk. He's stoned, because that's what I used to be. They didn't know what happened. So I grew up with being angry, being depressed, being afraid. The word health means to be sound in mind, body, and spirit. In the dictionary, that's what that word means. To be sound, that means you're strong, you're good. So my mind was not sound. I couldn't absorb teachings, because my mind is cluttered with this garbage. My body, I would lose weight, pick up weight, and when I'm drinking, I'm smoking a pack and a half cigarettes a day, so my body's taking a beating too while this is going on after I left a residential school. And the spirit, and I started to be aware of spirit, because the spirit is what holds our body together. There's that magical moment in life for all of us when that egg and that sperm come together in our parents, and boom. We have this miracle that requires water and heat inside of our mother. If there's no water, we wouldn't be cell dividing to create what I have today, like my fingers, my everything I have. It's because of my mother and my father, and water and heat. Boom. And there, I developed, and I come out into the world, and that spirit, the indicators of that sound, of the sound spirit, because the indicators of a mind is we can teach you. You can develop skills at a high level if your mind is clear. In your body, you can walk all day and pick berries and do stuff and celebrate. If your body is not strong, you go out there, oh my God, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. So a sound body, disease free, and you have physical strength and endurance. That's optimal. That's a sound body. So the sound spirit, when your spirit is nice, you have this incredible will to live. It doesn't matter what happens, you get knocked down, you stand up and you keep going. That's that will to live. And you also want to be successful at everything you do in life. Washing dishes, cooking, being a sibling, being a spouse, being a friend, being a Canadian. You want to be successful at it. The third indicator of that sound spirit is that you have this kindness and compassion, which is critical for our success and to take care of our body. Is that we have this kindness, because then we're kind to ourselves. We're not going to put toxins in our body. We're not going to put ourselves in harm's way. We're going to take care of ourselves. Our spirit is good, and we're kind. And when we achieve that, people want to be with us. They enjoy our presence. We laugh together. We do things together. We eat together. We do all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a celebration, because our spirit is good. Your spirit is good. Because when that mind and body is impacted at a high level, your spirit starts to lose that will to live. Oh, I don't want to be here anymore. And the addictions levels goes up. Like, imagine Gerry smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day because of my anxiety. Because smoking cigarettes is like a stress response. When you're stressed out, your breathing either goes, you're sort of going crazy, or shallow and you're trying to hide. Most people are shallow and they're trying to hide.
Mm-hmm.
You just breathe to here, just enough to keep alive.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're stressed out and their anxiety, then all of a sudden they discover cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Stress response. You break the stress line.
That's right.
Yeah, so I was doing that. Chain smoking. And there's my body taking a beating, because of the toxins and all those additives. They say, I think there's up to 5,000 additives in cigarettes, sugar, salt, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They even put nitroglycerin in there so it'll burn. What they use for making dynamite. Like you light a cigarette and you'll put it in the ashtray and it'll burn down till it's out.
Mm-hmm.
Natural tobacco will not do that in its natural state. So they're putting things in there. So anyway, so my body is, so I'm using all these things to escape my memory. That's what human beings do. We're memory banks. And if we're living our memories, the life around us, we're not really gonna live it, because we're carrying around these memories.
If we're living our memories, the life around us, we're not going to live it.
Yes. See, that's the negative memories.
Mm-hmm.
Even the positive memories, if it's all we're focusing on is the positive memories, we're still missing out what's going on around us.
Right.
See, the baby is a perfect example of Buddhas, because they don't think. They're there, their little belly sticking out, it doesn't matter, and they touch everything, taste everything, everything's an adventure.
They're fully present.
Fully present. See,
Closer to the door of knowing.
Yes, see, that's what I wanted. That's what we all hunger for.
Yeah.
So there I am, going downhill. And finally, at
Hmm.
27 years of age, I started to come to.
How?
I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'd wake up depressed. I would drink and everything would be good for the first few drinks. And all of a sudden, I'm going down again. It wasn't working.
Hmm.
The medicine of choice, which was alcohol and drugs, eventually wasn't working because it's a double-edged sword.
Hmm.
When I first started that drinking, I'd have a couple of beers. Oh, life's not so bad.
Hmm.
Go put a quarter in a jukebox and play some music, and everything's okay. But I'd leave there and then I'd be more depressed after because I'm broke now. My family's mad at me. What you doing? So I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was depressed. I was suicidal. All of those things because my spirit didn't want to live anymore. Didn't want to be here. Remember when I said if you're a sound spirit, you have this incredible will to live.
Will to live.
Yes, it's like -50 outside. It's okay. I still want to be here. And in fact, I'm proud. Like um, I can live through this and enjoy life.
Hmm.
Then it's 30 degrees out there, and everybody's sweating, and you're there, and yeah, I love this. That's when your spirit is good. That's when you'll adjust to it. You'll
Hmm.
adjust to the conditions and accept it as this is the way it is. We all got weakened as human beings. You reach up and you press the button and you adjust it, and it's 72 degrees. Or it's too hot, then you adjust it again, and the air conditioning comes on. So we get weakened in a sense.
Hmm.
We our comfort zones got all messed up.
Hmm.
I was a messed up guy. You know,
Mm.
for someone to think I want to end my life, that's messed up. And not reaching out for help, but just pretending people, oh, how are you, Jerry? Oh, I'm okay. And like
Hmm.
my elder says, you have a spasmodic effort to smile. Because you just saw their teeth. You know, my eyes weren't smiling.
Right.
And that elder from my community, because there's a series of things that happened in my wake up time.
Mm.
And one of them was that elder. And you'd say that spasmodic effort to smile,
Mm.
because I wasn't really being me. Because part of our hunger, my hunger was to be authentic, to be
Mm.
creative, and to do what I want. Because I wasn't myself. Clear and simple. That wasn't really Jerry. That's Jerry trying to escape, running away, even though we're all in the room, I'm not here. My memory bank is here. The residential school red brick buildings, even though they weren't there, it's all not real anymore. It really happened, but there I am carrying around my back. So when I finally hit the wall and I wanted to end it, I went to an elder in my community. He told me years before he wanted to teach me. He says, yeah, you got it, Jerry. I can see it in you. You got it. You have this potential, and I wanted to teach you what we do. So I went to see him because I was getting farther and closer to suicide.
Hmm.
I'm not proud to say that. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's just totally depressing.
Hmm.
It's not good for anyone.
Hmm.
So I went to see him. I said, remember that time you said you would teach me, that you would help me with our ways. He says, oh, yeah. He says, we talked and ended up, I went on a vision quest. And usually those happen when you hit teenage years, in our culture. Because now you're going to be an adult. We have to let you know how serious life is. So we're going to isolate you and take your food and water. And you're going to sit there and meditate and think of what you're going to do with this life. This gift that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was a bit delayed, but I at least I done it. And that's where I started. That's where I started to really say, okay, I want to live. Because I'm sitting there. We built a small lodge. And he covered the floor with fir boughs, and this is in the springtime, and there's really nice light green at the end of the fir boughs. So we picked a bunch and we layered them inside that lodge, just like a mattress. Smells good in there. He says, as time goes on here, your breath is going to start to be bad because your body's going to start to eat itself. So you chew on these tips. Don't swallow them, just chew and spit them out. It's going to be medicine for you too. So I was there, and after one day, I talked to myself. We all talk to ourselves. I said, "What you doing? What you doing?" And the answer was, "You're fasting." And my answer back, my little conversation, as you could tell, I was in real trouble because I'm having a conversation with myself. In life, I was like that. He said, "You are fasting." I say, "Oh, that's stupid. Why did I accept to do this? I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I don't see any sense to this." But before he left, he took all my clothes when he left me there. He said, "Give me your clothes." Yeah, okay. So I take off my shoes, my shirt, my pants, and give it to him. He said, "What did I say?" He said, "Give me your clothes." He says, "Well," so I still had my ganchis or my shorts on. So, okay. So I take them off and give it to him. So there I am, no clothes, sitting in this lodge. Second day, I want to go home. This is stupid. I asked myself, "What you doing? You are fasting. This is stupid. I don't want to do this. I want to change my mind." But I couldn't go because I didn't have any clothes. I didn't want people to see me naked walking around in the community. So I stayed there. And the third day, again, I asked myself, "What are you doing?" And the first time in my life, I took ownership since I was a child before the residential school. I said, "I am fasting." And that whole world changed.
Wow.
Now I settle down, I sit and I listen. I could hear a bumblebee flying around. I thought it was in the lodge and I was going like this. Then I stopped, settled down. I said, "Oh, it's outside." It was flying, and I can hear it. And all of a sudden, I discovered the world of sound in nature. So I'm listening there. I'm not thinking about residential school or how stupid I am for doing this and stuff. Now I embraced this. I'm sitting there and said, "Holy, smell the fir boughs, and it's just nice." Now I hear a sound out there towards the evening. And I'm sitting there. And I could hear something walking outside my lodge. It got quiet. I went out and I looked. There's black bear tracks that walked around my lodge and left. I said, "Oh, that's cool." I'm visited by a bumblebee and a black bear. And so that I went back in, and that's when, you know, I saw what I'm supposed to do. And I closed my eyes and I could see myself sitting in a circle, but we're all like blue, shimmering human figures, in a circle. And I'm speaking and singing with a hand drum. And I said, "Oh, that's my purpose. That's what I'm supposed to do." Oh, and I started singing, and that when I left, that elder come and get me, give me my clothes, and I said, I got a song and I know what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, oh, good. I remember walking down that mountain and I was weeping. What I call cleansing tears, not self-pity or anger, but cleansing. Now I have a purpose. Now I know what I'm supposed to, now I know what my gift is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tell people today, our job as a human being is to find our gift or our gifts and use them to help other people. I was a self-centered human being,
Mm-hmm.
carrying around my negative memories. Poor
Mm-hmm.
Gerry, poor me. And people say, you have a right to be that. Of course I do. But I also have a right to take care of myself, not stay there. I've told people now in life, I said, you need to work with your anger issues because you don't want your children to look at you and just see anger, or your grandchildren, or your friends. Or you don't want them to see just that fear in your eye. Have self-confidence
Mm-hmm.
because they'll be afraid too. Or
Mm-hmm.
you don't want them to see sadness and just this incredible sadness because they'll get sad too. You want them to look in your eye and see life. And, I want to live. So that was the beginning, and it took years after to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
Now I have to learn to start to let go of different things that had hurt me. To free myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've done many things to free myself. I've
Yeah.
been helped by people to free myself. Like after I'd sobered up in 1976, after 3 years I got another addiction. Now it's called workaholic. I started just working, and we set a goal for ourselves. My cohort at that time were saying, yeah, we're going to sober up all the indigenous people in North America by the year 2000. We had this arrogance and this. We were setting goals for ourselves. And, so now I had this focus. It's a positive focus, helping people. And 3 years in, all of a sudden, I start getting fatigue.
Mm.
I'd wake up and, I'm tired, but I need to go to work. And I'm just exhausted all the time. Nowadays, I find out they call it chronic fatigue syndrome. And I started to get like that. And I'd sweat lodge, I'd cold water bathe, I'd chew medicines like I'm chewing roots all the time, and I'm doing that then. And nothing's working. I'm still getting tired. It's depressing after a while, being tired all the time, like being hangry, So I took some of our youth to this workshop. It's called Healing Yourself with Your Own Energy.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't sit in a workshop. I just put my wards in there and say, okay, guys, stay there now. I go sleep in my car
Mm.
because I'm tired. Probably the smartest thing for me to do was sit in those workshops and heal myself, But I didn't. So Friday comes along and workshop's over. And the healer is walking by. There's a woman. I said, can you look at me? I'm standing there with two of my guy friends from residential school that are now addictions counselors too. She stops and she looks up to the sky, and I say, oh, she's tired. That's what my mind is saying, because she's been working with teenagers for 5 days. But she looks at me and she says, oh my gosh, your energy is shooting up straight from your head. You must be tired. I'm
Oh.
exhausted. And she says, because your energy is supposed to be around you like it's like an egg, all around you. And that's when your energy is good. I says, oh. And she's looking at me. And she says, you were sexually abused as a child. And up until that day, I had never disclosed it to anyone. And I was going to lie to her because I'm a guy. Say, oh no, you're wrong. You know, nobody wants to admit to be sexually assaulted by another guy. But she's looking at me. She goes like, it's not by one man, but by two men. In my mind now, I'm saying, oh, geez, I can't lie to this woman. She's got a gift. So I looked at her and I said, yes. First time in my life disclosed. She's looking at me. She says, you know, those men are still in you. And that shook me up.
Whoosh.
I says, oh. She says, you know, because if you rub diesel or gasoline on your skin, it goes into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And your body will try and eliminate it. But there will be little remnants floating around in your system. And she says, you need to get rid of those men. And she didn't ask me if I wanted to do anything or anything because I asked her to look at me, so I gave her permission.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, I want you to put up your hands. And when I ask you to close your eyes, as soon as you see those men, I want you to cast them off. She says, really get into it. Do it if you want to get rid of them. Make noise, do whatever. So she says, okay, close your eyes. It's just like 1, 2, like that. I see them. Because I've been carrying them around now for many years. So I went like this and I screamed, ah! And I went like that. And there was tears flowing down my face. She's looking at me, she says, you've done it. Congratulations. And she left. No debrief or anything, I'm standing there. But I'm free now. I could tell, because when you suffer from post-trauma, you have same nightmares, day in, day out. I had 2 nightmares. I'd always have them. And I wake up afraid, angry, depressed, you know, all of those things. People are chasing me and I can't fight them off. My hands wouldn't, I want them to raise up and get into defense. My hands wouldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
And I beat myself up, oh, you coward, you're not even a man and stuff when I wake up. You know. So anyway, I stopped having the dreams because I cast off my abusers. And I'm free now. You know, and so that's one of the steps that I've done to deal with. That's dealing with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Cast them off. I refuse to carry you around anymore. You know, so I was free. So now I have to deal with my habits that I developed living with PTSD. Part of it is not telling the truth,
Right.
withdrawing, avoiding, not knowing really how to communicate, listen and talk. Now the journey was to learn how to live with people. Because literally I was living with those abusers, which is sort of hard to wrap your mind around, but that's what literally it was, because I'm carrying them around and they're getting heavy. You know, could tell by my body, I'm tired, my body language, you know, and everything. So then to deal with, because the other part that I was depressed, angry, and fearful about was the Canadian government and the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
White people, oh, I hated them. I hated Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I started doing, it's all around ceremony and ritual. Because Indigenous ceremony and ritual is actually a lot of times no talk therapy. You just go through these things focused on what it is, and you do it, and something happens. So with the British, because I hated British people, I hated their accent, everything about Brits, drinking tea like this, everything, I'd look for excuses not to like them. But I went to London. My sister-in-law lives in London. She married an Englishman. Because my wife would go to England and visit her, and she'd say, "Hey, I'm going to England. You want to come?" And nothing to do with England.
Right.
Then my sister going to get married. I have to go. My sister-in-law. I have to go because it's all about family life, actually. Okay, I rented a suit and I done all this stuff, right? So as a build up to this, I told my wife, I'm going to do a ceremony over there at Speaker's Corner. Because I tell people, in order to heal, one of the requirements is that you must forgive the ones that hurt you. Because forgive means to let go. See, I wasn't letting go. Like I forgave those abusers of me by letting them go. That's big, And so now I need to forgive these British people because I'm treating them like colonizers. And they're not really colonizers, so I figured that out in my head that I'm hating these people and I don't even know them. I better do something because I'm telling people, if you want to heal, you got to forgive. So I could hear myself. Got to listen to yourself too, Gerry, otherwise you're a hypocrite. So when I was going to London, I said, okay, I'm going to forgive those British people. And the Queen. So I get there and I go down Speaker's Corner on a Sunday morning, in Hyde Park. People on soapboxes and milk boxes and stuff talking about aliens, talking about the Bible, talking about the Quran. People talking about anything they want down there. I said, no, I don't feel right doing it here, my ceremony. My wife says, why don't you do it over at Buckingham Palace? Hey, yeah, that sounds good. So I meditated on the ceremony, how I'm going to do this. So we go there in the morning. And I have this rattle. And I have a headband on. And I go there. And I introduce myself. And there's a big statue. I think it's Queen Victoria or somebody in front of Buckingham Palace. And it's got things in there that represent colonization, the Dominion, the empire. And so I said, okay, I'm going to talk to the Queen and her British subjects. I'm going to introduce myself to them and tell them who I am. And I'm going to say, I want to forgive you, Queen of England, and all your subjects. And I want to thank you for teaching the importance of taking down walls and cleaning up the environment. And about, not allowing modified foods in your country and stuff, because that's what they were doing. I said, I want to thank you for that. Because you cleaned up the River Thames. It was a dead river in the 70s. Nothing, no fish in there, nothing. It was so polluted. I said, you're showing people how to come back to being tribal, being clans. In small ways, but you're doing it. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to forgive you for what happened to us as Indigenous people in the 1600s. And so I talked to them why I'm there. Then I started singing. And I started dancing in front of the Queen. Oh, they were changing the guard as I was going through my ceremony. And all of a sudden, there's a whole slew of people around me and these Japanese, Asian tourists taking pictures and stuff. But I just kept on, and I reclaiming myself
Mm.
and forgiving them. After that, Brits were talking to me. They didn't see my ceremony, but they could sense there's a change in Gerry. Because before that, like they wouldn't give me time of day because I'm bristling with this hate of English people. Because we don't realize that when we're living that way, people could see it or feel it. More importantly, I could be smiling, talking, but they know that I got an issue with them. That's the way humans are. Oh, geez, all of a sudden these people were talking to me, and telling me stories. There's one tour guide says, yeah, I'm Germanic, even though I'm British, because we've been colonized by Romans, Vikings, Germans, French, Celts. You had a whole list of people that colonized England. And I had an awakening about colonization, about how the oppressed become oppressors. I said, oh, that's why they became that way. Because they were so oppressed and colonized, they lost their language. They developed English. I read the dictionary now and again, and I see that, like grieve, for instance, is a French word. And you talk about grief and loss. And the word grieve in French means to carry a heavy load. So when you're grieving, you're carrying heaviness. So curriculum, I think it's a Latin word that means the path that chariots run down. So when you develop a curriculum for teachers, it's a path that teachers go down. So I started to see that they were oppressed at a high level. And anyone that becomes oppressed has a chance of becoming an oppressor. And I come to accept that. Like Paulo Freire talks about that in the pedagogy of the oppressed. So anyway, so I forgave them. And then we come to the Catholic Church. A couple of years later, my wife and I are going to go to Italy. We made that decision. I said, okay, I want to forgive the church. So I phoned, looked on the website for Rome, and I wanted to talk to the Pope. So I phoned it. I couldn't get through. So I emailed, and it kept bouncing back. Wouldn't accept my email. So I'm trying to get in touch with the Pope to ask if I can do a ceremony at the Basilica. Nobody would answer me or anything, so I wrote a letter, hard copy, snail mail, and I mailed it. Introduced who I am. I'm going to go do a ceremony there about sexual abuse in residential schools and the reservations. That I'm going to heal myself. And when people heard what I was doing, I had a whole list of names of people said, "Can you include me in your ceremony?"
Mm.
So I said, "Oh yes." He said, "Yeah, because they have issues with the Roman Catholic Church too."
Yeah.
So again, I meditate. What am I going to do? What's the ceremony look like? Because ceremony is a spiritual or a public event. That's what ceremony is. Public event is graduations, weddings and stuff like that. Spiritual is where people sing and do things together. So I wanted to do a spiritual ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'll go there early in the morning. The basilica has got, I think, it's 30 pillars or 30 or 60 pillars around it like this, where he does an outdoor mass, the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
And it represents Rome is open to everyone of every faith. You're welcome here. I said, oh, those are beautiful words. And so I get there, and again, I have a headband, my rattle. This time I even have my deer hoof things on my legs. Makes noise when you're dancing.
Mm.
And I had those on. And I had a decolonized t-shirt on. So I go there, and then I have red earth ground to a fine powder.
Mm.
That represents protection. So I had a bag of that. Then I had a bag of eagle down. So I got there and I introduced myself again, read the list of people that wanted to be represented in this ceremony in regards to the Roman Catholic Church, because there it is right there. Rome is
Mm.
the smallest, wealthiest country in the world. It's recognized as a country, Rome, where the center of Roman Catholicism is. So, and I said, I'm here to forgive the Roman Catholic Church for everything that happened to me and my people. You know, the destruction of our language, our ceremony and ritual, and all of those things that happened in the name of Christ
Mm.
that I'm here for. And I'm going to sprinkle red earth to cover up that shame, to protect people from sexual abuse, because that's a shield, that red earth. And I said, after that, I'm going to sprinkle eagle down all around this 10 by 10 area that represents the Catholic Church. And that represents healing, that people heal from the harms of the Roman Catholic Church. So that's what then I started. I started singing,
Mm.
shaking my rattle, and I'm sprinkling this red earth. I go in a circle. And I finish. Now, just as I'm reaching for the bag of eagle down, I'm surrounded by police. And these are from the Basilica police. And this guy is in my face going like this, no more. I said, I'm doing a ceremony. No more. And my wife thought they're going to arrest me. So I looked and I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to finish my ceremony across the street. Because you just go across this narrow road and you're in Italy.
Mm.
So I crossed the street and they didn't follow me, which proved my thought was right. They only police Rome. So I walked across there and I kept singing and I was spreading eagle down. And eagle down was so light it was floating over into Rome. And it represents healing. I remember I was doing that and there was tears coming down my face because my hate was so intense. And hate for anyone is bad.
Mm.
Your breath gets affected because your stomach gets affected, you know, your muscles get tense when you think of those thoughts. And I finished. So those were the one that I wanted to do next, and hopefully I can do is go do one in Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
the federal parliament buildings,
Mm-hmm.
because the Canadian government has done a lot of harm to Indigenous peoples.
And continues.
Oh, they're full of false generosity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're taking care of the First Nations. Well, how come our determinants don't change? In fact, they get worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wanted to go there and do a ceremony. And the ceremonies are for myself and people that want to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as one, like you got an entity, even if one person goes in there and does a positive, it can start to affect that. It's my belief. That's why
Mm-hmm.
when I went to England, and I went to Rome. Oh, I also went to Spain where Christopher Columbus was buried. I done a ceremony there too. Because I said when I was doing the ceremony at Christopher Columbus's tomb, and I said, Christopher, you opened Pandora's box for Indigenous people. By you landing there and showing the way, it opened Pandora's box for us, which is suicide, poverty, addictions, all the things that happened to us that we didn't live ever before. We had no alcohol in our culture before. You know, we had no smallpox and degenerative diseases before contact. We didn't know what hunger was, the kind that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I said, you opened Pandora's box, so I'm here to forgive you.
Mm.
You know, and, so I done a ceremony at his tomb.
Wow.
Yeah. So I put it in my mind, I better go to the source,
Jeez.
my memory bank. See, because when we started talking here, I said, if we're living yesterday's memories, life around us escapes. It's like walking around like this.
Yeah, Gerry, you said that in one of the episodes in your podcast. You were talking about being in that state of depression and having a beautiful day, being in a beautiful day with a beautiful backdrop, being surrounded by beautiful nature, and being even sadder because you couldn't feel it.
Yes. Yes. I couldn't. I said, there's something wrong with me. I know this is beautiful, but I can't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was drugged all the time on some kind of, you know, antidepressant or something.
Right.
You know, because I know, you know, I've taken some of those drugs too, and you don't feel good. You're just deadened.
You're just numb.
Yeah, just numb. You know, because now, you know, I go places and sometimes I get to tears. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I was running in Arizona early one morning along there's the Vermilion Cliffs. Before you get to the Grand Canyon, there's these cliffs, they call them vermilion because they're red, pink, there's these colors. And I love to run, so I'd run early in the morning. So I go for my run, and I'm running on the highway, and it's nice and cool. The sun isn't up yet. Then the sun starts rising. And I could see the top of the Vermilion Cliffs being hit, and all of a sudden there's this color. And as the sun rises, it's coming down the mountain, and I started weeping because I said, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm running and I'm running, and the sun keeps rising, and pretty soon those cliffs are just about all exposed in the sun, and I'm still in the shade. And I'm just enthralled by this, and I'm looking and I'm running. And then finally it dawns me, I better start going back because the sun's going to hit full duty, heavy duty here now, and
Mm-hmm.
I better get back there.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned around and started running back. So I can feel nature now.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best gifts from healing
Yeah.
because there's so much beauty around us.
Right.
I started to realize that the sun reflects off pine needles and needles on trees. I'd walk by a pine tree and I'd look, the sun would be shining, and I could see reflection on the leaves of the tree.
Mm.
I'm going, whoa, I've never seen this before or felt it. See, so that's what carrying memories around does to us, for any human being.
Can I ask you a question, Gerry?
Yes, of course.
You said a couple things. Well, everything you're saying is very powerful. Thank you for sharing your story and for everyone who's been here to witness and listen. And, you know, however the impacts and the medicine that you're sharing right now. But I want to dig a little bit into when you were talking about how the oppressed can become the oppressor. And I mean, I feel in my own lived experience and those around me, and just from what I've witnessed and seen, that when we have our power taken away from us, sometimes we try and get that power back by exercising power over another. by transforming that energy into hate for someone else. And so if we're abused, then we'll abuse someone else. And that's how we're trying to get that power back. And it's these cycles. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about that. What are your thoughts around that? How do we use that energy that you were talking about? There's a difference between just hate, anger, and rage, and self-righteous rage. How do we activate that into a way that's effective?
Yeah, see, that's what we're in the process of now. I firmly believe that in this time of the virus,
Yeah.
we're all of a sudden put in this place where we can look at ourselves. Where I'm from, the ceremony that we have in calls that means a place to look at yourself. That's what we call our sweat lodge, a place to look at yourself. You see, the oppressed, I come to understand that most people that come to Canada were oppressed. That's why they want to come here. Why else you want to leave home? You know, I've met Italians and British people, and I'd ask, why did your grandparents come here?
Mm.
Oh, they wanted to be farmers. They wanted to do this, but no way we could do it in England. You know, because it's all taken up.
Right.
So they come here and all of a sudden it's like heaven. Holy smokes. 500 acres for me? You know, that's what the settlers, they got free land. It's like heaven.
Mm.
They could win the jackpot, the lotto, you know. So I know that people that are oppressors today aren't truly happy people. Anything that's negative that you're putting out is a sign that you're not really deep-seated happy,
Mm-hmm.
or you have the sense of sincerity, and this feeling of being grounded and being part of life in a good way, serene, experiencing happiness and contentment. If you're miserable, let's say a racist against Indigenous people, every time they see me, they're triggered. Because they've been taught to hate those people right from childhood. We say that everything up to 6 years old, you absorb like a sponge. So if you're there as a baby or somebody before 6 years old and your parents are saying, oh, those people, they don't pay taxes, they don't care about their health, they're drunks or whatever, the kids are absorbing that.
Right.
So you're putting a burden on your children by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're going to be triggered when they see the Indigenous, oh, that person doesn't work, whatever. Which is totally not true. People still look at me and say, oh, how much do you drink? I haven't drank since 76. What you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a sign that they're not really happy.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get triggered. See, I got triggered by racists. Somebody, oh, there's that stupid effing Indian. And my pupils would dilate, my heart rate would go up, my hands get sweaty, my blood vessels constrict. That's when you're under stress. So I thought about myself being a victim of racism. That's what's happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I put the shoe on the other foot. I said, they're having the same physical reaction.
Mm-hmm.
A racist. Pupils dilate, heart rate goes up, breathing changes, blood vessels constrict. And so I said to myself one year, I said, okay, racist, you be that. I'm not going to buy into this. I'm going to go home and have a good night's sleep. I know you're not, because you've seen me. So I wasn't going to carry their stress, because that's what I believe is happening with them. I don't think being a racist is a happy experience. Some
No.
people get turned on the feeling of power, because the power of love is a sickness too, or the being in love with power, I mean, is a sickness.
Mm-hmm.
If you get addicted to having power, you do anything to keep it,
Right.
to make it stronger. And
Mm-hmm.
I know those aren't happy campers really.
Mm-hmm.
They're fooled into thinking that's the way. Like people saying, "Oh, you can be a millionaire. I want you to be a millionaire like me." That's a fool's.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not really going to be happy because they're just consumed with getting to that million mark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's our poor kids and people around them. They don't really care for them because they just focused on that one goal of being a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that, when I look at that in the whole country, it's built on lies and deception and thievery, because that's what colonizers do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really happy campers.
No.
Remember, I mentioned social conscience at the beginning, that there is a societal conscience. Actually, the word social means friend in the dictionary, to be a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So society means that we're going to be a group of friends. So when they're not living that, they feel it, I think, at an unconscious level. And when people feel guilty, they're not happy people.
Right.
They're waiting to be caught. They don't want to be caught with this negativity.
Hmm. What do we do, Gerry, when these people that we're talking about, and if we really talk about all of our relations, these brothers and sisters who may be dancing with their own demons, who may be traumatized and sick, right? Because racism, it is a sickness. But what do we do when these are the people with their knees on people's necks who are killing, who are, preventing ongoing colonialism, ongoing violence, preventing the healing that
Yes,
needs
you,
to happen?
yes, you see, that's happening because we're not stopping them. We put everything we have into the justice system, for instance, because the word justice actually means absolute fairness for all. That's
Mm-hmm.
what the word justice is referring to. And when we let people, individuals, get away with things and there's no consequence, it's going to happen again and again and again. So when we all stand up together and say no more, because we're trapped into this system, what they call democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I got curious about democracy, so I went to Greece because that's where the birth of democracy is that I'd heard.
Right.
The word democracy comes from the Greek language. Demos means a people, just like pandemic. Demic comes from demos. That means pan means all, demic means people.
All
All
people
the people,
did.
virus.
Uh-huh.
Democracy, demos is the people. Is all that it's about the people. So the first democracy in Athens, they called one representative from each clan to come and talk about how they're going to use the water in the rivers and things like that, and how they're going to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They come and they have their meetings and they solve those problems, and those people would go back and tell their clans. That's demos for the
Mm-hmm.
people. Then the next year they'd have a meeting, they'd send someone else. So those people were actual representatives of a group that knew them. That's democracy. What we have today, it's not for the people, it's for the individual.
Right.
So it got twisted. People, it's just like there are people that interpret the Bible to benefit themselves
Yeah.
in a selfish way. That's what's happening with democracy now. It's not about the people anymore. It's about
Mm-hmm.
corporations and about individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Corporations are actually individuals. multi-billionaires, millionaires. You know, so when we see like the guy with the knee, I've gone around with people from this system. Like one of our people got shot and killed by a sergeant, shot in the back, and he died. Nothing really happened from that. How come we do not put our minds together
Mm.
to do something about this? Because we're fooled into thinking that we'll vote the government and that they'll do it. And they say a lot of times that we'll do it too, but they don't. See, when people lose sincerity and are just saying what they think people want to hear
Wow.
to get into power.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not holding people accountable as citizens. And so we'll complain about the guy getting killed, but we're not really doing something about it. I read this wonderful thing, and I tell people, I was a king of the complainers. Oh, the government, this, the church, that, residential school. I was complaining all the time. Somebody should do something, I was saying.
Right.
Then I realized I'm somebody.
Hmm.
So I started doing things, like I go talk now I do keynotes, for instance. I done an international one. I think there were 700 people in the group. And I go there with the intention of assimilating them into indigeneity.
Mm-hmm.
Way of saying, okay, justice, that means for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I go for.
Mm.
Part of that message I was watching Bob Marley documentary. And he says, I don't come here to bow. He says, I come here to conquer with words.
Mm.
So I sort of took that on. I bow, but I'm here to conquer. I'm here to assimilate you. Into going back to that old clan way of life where we care for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what the clans, in Europe, there were clans before the industrial agricultural revolution. They had shamans just like we have healers and stuff. They had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got lured into this industrial complex,
Mm-hmm.
agricultural complex. They started leaving the country and going to cities.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost our way from there as human beings.
Right.
So
That's really powerful, saying that we need to come, so many ancient lineages. A commonality that I've witnessed is something that comes up over and over in a different way, a different color, a different tone, is this idea of putting our hearts and our minds as one, kind of connecting back to that true essence, coming back to the womb, working to fight through the mind and the ego and the distractions to return to our true essence. There are so many different ways and tools. And I think that that's really important to say that, because, we chatted a little bit yesterday about, if we're going to burn everything down, what are we planting to grow out of the ashes? And we can't have that kind of social cohesion like birds have when they're flying in the sky, or groups of, our animal relatives have when they're working together instinctively and intuitively. We can't come to that kind of cohesion to build the solutions that we need if we're not of one heart and one mind.
Yes, you nailed it. I'm living now. I'm pretty sure that man might have walked around here. Is one of the indigenous philosophers. Philosophers are people that provide guiding thoughts for human beings. That's a philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophy means guiding thoughts. That's what the word is. So one of the philosophers in North America said that. Let's put our minds together to see what we can do for the children. And that was Sitting Bull. So he said that, and that's what we need to do.
Right.
Like, what are we leaving for the children, our generations, like my generation, 70-year-olds, what are we leaving for the children?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I do podcasts, to do things, I want to leave something for them so they have a better life. Because someone done that for me. My elders, saying things like, be careful and sincere with your words. It's like an arrow leaving a bow. It'll go in and hurt people or it can heal people.
Mm.
So you be careful and sincere. That means mean what you're saying and be careful. My granny, squasha apa. She's saying, don't you ever use bad words when you're talking to people. Don't call them bad names and say bad things to them. Because otherwise you're not going to have friends. Amakalutapa. She says you're going to have lots of friends if you use good words all the time. And I do. I got lots of friends, lots of friendly relationships.
Right.
Because we don't know each other enough to be friends. Like I travel across Canada doing workshops and stuff, and I got lots of friendly relations. Because of the good words.
Gerry, can you tell me a little bit? A lot of what you talk about on the podcast is healthy masculinity, this idea of healthy masculinity, addressing toxic masculinity. I don't know if that's a term you use, but tell me a little bit about how you got into that work specifically. What does that mean for you, and why is that something that you want to talk about and you want to talk about with men?
Well, I started to see how unhealthy men were getting back in the 90s. One of my cousins was raped, and I was supporting her to go through the court system, get justice. And it was taking so long. And I remember she says, Gerry, I want you to move me away from this community. I said, why? She said, oh, you should hear the way people talk to me. Victims get abused a lot, especially when they make noise. Stop the abuse. So I started seeing, like, my lenses all of a sudden were different. They were clear. And I could see the abuse that was happening. And plus, I was abused by men myself. So I want to be really careful around this, because I know abuse has no color, no sex either. Women are abusers, men are abusers.
Right.
I want to be really clear about that. There's no color, no boundaries. But I started to say, okay, what as men are we going to do? What's needed? What's missing? Because I see women since I started working in '76 as a human service worker. Everywhere I went, and I was called all over BC to do workshops and to speak, that the women were always there. One or two men, maybe 3, 4 at the most, would come to the sessions. So I started to see something missing for the men. That they'd lost. They didn't have their feet in the ground. They were lost. And everything I'd seen was a reason. I knew why they were like that, but it wasn't an excuse for them being abusive. Because I heard and seen awful crimes against humanity by men. Murder, rape, beating, stealing, harsh words, this meanness. And I know inherently we're not meant to be like that. We're born to be good. So I figured there's a construct here, a social construct. To colonize, first off, you destroy the man's manhood. It's the first step. They've done that with alcohol, with different things. They used to give away alcohol to us. In Manitoba, they gave away 2,100 gallons of rum to take over Manitoba because they're getting the men drunk. Same in BC. It happened right across. So I started to look at this and thinking the women need help because they've been doing it by themselves ever since colonization. Somehow, as men, we got drunk. We thought that was cool. We started doing what the colonizer was doing. The colonizer did not treat our women good. Before colonization, women were. We all had our place of respect. Women at times, their job was to pick the leaders. They carried special songs and special ceremony. We all had our place and supported that. We didn't other people. Everybody was the same, literally, even though they had different gifts and different qualities. We're all still in this together. So I saw the men being pushed out. You know, they felt they were, but they were putting themselves outside the circle. And I had friends that suicided, that ended up doing lots of time in prison. But when I talk to them one-on-one, when we're together, they're just like me and you. But they lost themselves. No more pride, no more righteous anger. It's all sick anger and stuff, you know. And people would ask me, Gerry, what do we do? And I didn't really know. I read the saying once, and I carry that with me, and I use it with myself. And they say, there's no such thing as a hopeless case, only hopeless methods. So you're doing something, it doesn't work, you do something else. I'll give you an example. I was working with this man. That's why I know that we can change. I was working with this man. He was going to lose his kids, chronic alcoholic. You know, and they said, Gerry, we want you to work with so-and-so, otherwise he's going to lose these kids. Oh, okay. So I took him fishing. Him and his children and his wife were camping down the river, fishing. 2:00 in the morning, you know, around midnight, this run come through. That means there's lots of salmon in the river. The kids and his wife are sleeping, so him and I are out there pulling in a fish. We probably get about, I don't know, 100 fish. So I said, we have to cut it now before the sun comes up. So we got these coal oil lamps and we're cutting fish. He said, Gerry, I said, oh, what? You okay? And he points up and he says, is half of this mine? That's what I told you, for you and your family, for the winter. And he said, I never owned a fishing net in my life, or a knife for cutting fish or anything. And half of it, yeah, I told you, you know, don't worry about it. Half of it's yours because you're helping me. So he's quiet again and we're cutting fish. And this out of like the blue, he says, Gerry. I says, what? And he sort of had some tears in his eyes and he says, you know, I can't go to sleep until after 2:00 in the morning. I says, whoa. And I knew that part of the problem was that my community would hire him and he'd be good for a couple of days, then he'd sleep in. Then we couldn't keep him because he wasn't consistent. So I said, oh, why? He says, well, when I was 6 years old, I was in residential school. And around midnight or after midnight, this priest would come and get me. I go, whoa, that's why he couldn't fit into our rhythm. He was triggered by time. But once he talked about it, he got to be all right. He started to let it go, free himself. You see, so I started to think of the men, because we're supposed to be the hunter, the food gatherer, the provider, the protector. That's taken away by the federal government. They said they're going to do it all. They didn't give our men jobs. Racism was at the very beginning was pretty intense. You couldn't get a job working for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they started to get left behind. And I see that happening. Like, I don't condone any kind of violence, but I understand what's going on. And I wanted to say, well, what can we do, even if it's a bit at a time? What can I do? Because my podcasts are all about inspiration, motivation, and healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. So that's what I want to do for the men and their families, anybody who listens. Because I got fed up with men, drug dealers, bootleggers, violent people.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get even, hurt them. But I knew somewhere inside myself that's not the answer.
Right.
So that's why I do what I do now. And
Mm-hmm.
I really feel for the men. They don't have a way to express their masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
When before contact, when the hunter comes in and it's 50 below outside, 20 below, and a hunter comes in dragging a moose or a deer, that man was elevated and thanked for his gift, and he had a place and a purpose. Now that we're permanent wards of the state because we're fiscal, the responsibility, Ottawa is supposed to take care of us. Our men lost their place. Food gathering, bringing in the protein, the deer and the duck and the salmon and the geese. Because now they have fish and game laws and they say you can hunt on the reserve, but our reserves are so small. So our men were really targeted, as well as a woman. Murdered and missing Indigenous women started happening when those trappers were coming in, and those explorers, because they didn't have women with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Gerry, I don't
you
take
go
up too
ahead.
much more of your time. I mean, I know I'm super grateful. I'm grateful for every minute that you spend with us sharing your thoughts, but you might start to get uncomfy. Might
Oh
start to
no,
get we have
I'm
to
on a
start.
roll. I'm on a roll here, and I don't have any other meetings. So whenever you're done, I'm done. So
Oh,
go.
I'm doing great too. I'm wondering if at any time you feel like singing, you feel
Oh
like
yeah.
moving through some of this energy here. We've been talking about some heavy, important things, but I mean, you're ready to go. You're ready to go. So that's if you feel like singing a song, tell us what you want to sing and where you learned the song, whatever you like.
Yeah, this has been one of my saviors is the hand drum. And if I ever get the blues or get lonely, and when I first started, wherever I go, you see me carrying a hand drum.
Mm.
Because when I was a child and a teenager, I didn't hear or see one hand drum in my community.
Mm.
Might have been there, but just out of sight. Because the assimilation policy was pretty darn effective. When you think about it, like I wasn't hearing music when I was a child. People weren't expressing that.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I heard a drum, holy smokes, it's like charge of electricity going through me. And I said, what is that? It's so beautiful, And I wanted to do it, but I was so insecure.
Yeah.
So when I started to do it, got a hand drum, and all of a sudden I'm singing songs. It was so good for me. One of the gifts that I'm just so appreciative of is traditional music.
Mhm.
Because traditional music is all about lifting people up, building people up, telling stories, good stories. And this Euro Judeo Christian influenced music, it's about a lot of times it's about sadness.
Mhm.
There's tears in my beer, or like Chris Christopherson could really make me cry, and I listen to him. Sunday morning coming down, wishing to God I was stoned and stuff like that, right? That can get addictive too, And he says, I
Real
can smell,
downer.
I'm on a Sunday morning sidewalk, I can smell the smell of frying chicken, and he's lonely for that.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of music, and I used to listen to that too. But as soon as I got to the traditional music, it started to help get me strong. So I had this tune that I used to sing when I'd get the blues, I called Jerry's Blues, and I heard this song, and it's a pop song, because pop, it refers to popular
Mhm.
music, pop music, popular music.
Right.
So we had pop music too. It's called powwow music. It's pop music because it's popular. So people would sing these melodies, and there's millions of them. Did you know that the word universe means one song?
Hmm.
Isn't that a beautiful word? Like it's just
Hmm.
all one song. It's all music, really.
Wow.
We're music, your music, I'm music, you know. So I get the blues sometimes and I sing a song, and as soon as I finish singing it, I'd be cured.
Mhm.
Because I let it happen. I let it start to come out of my body.
Mm.
Because I'm lonely or I'm feeling guilty. One time it was one of my children's birthday, and I was at a workshop. And I knew it was their birthday, and I started to get the blues and started to feel bad because I'm not there, and beat myself up and stuff. So I sat down by myself outside, and I took out my drum, and I go, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, 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 yo, hey, yo, hey, hey, yo, hey, hey, yeah, hey, yo. Hey, oh, hey, ya, hey, hey, ya, hey, oh, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, oh. Hey, 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 ya, hey, yo, hey, 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 yo, hey, yo, hey, yo. Hey, hey, Hey ya, hey, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Woo-hee. Little bit of music.
Hi, hi. Good medicine. Beautiful. Sure does get your spirits up, hey?
Oh, you know that music. You know, like I was saying, it was part of our way of life.
Yeah.
Oh, they have music to greet the day. You know, for food. I was picking medicine with this elder, and a lot of people give tobacco and things, and I went picking with him. And so we're out there picking medicine, and he's singing. And that's how he thanks the plants and the trees and things where we're getting the medicine. And I talked to him. Yeah, he says, that's what I do. He says, other people leave things, I leave music.
Right.
I said, oh, that's beautiful. So I sing to trees and stuff like that. Like I got a garden now, and I'm watering them. I sing to the plants.
Mm-hmm.
One of the elders says, you know why birds sing all the time? Oh, no, why do they sing? Oh, they're ripening the plants and the berries. Oh, I said, that's a good reason for singing. Yeah. You know, I'd like to talk about healing now.
Yeah.
I've already talked a bit about it, but when we're doing healing work, there's two areas we look at: mental
Mm-hmm.
health and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that happens to our mind or our body is going to affect our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
When we do healing work, it's about the word heal means to become original again.
Wow.
Yeah, because if I break my arm and I go to the doctor and they said it, they're making it original again. If I don't, I'll walk around with my arm crooked all the time. So they're making it original. That's what heal means. So we
Mm.
all need healing. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people healing's a road, it's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're human beings and we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We say something to somebody and we didn't really mean it, but we said it, so we need to heal that to keep that
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so or we're healing from our memories. Like I was telling you, my journey to Europe is part of my healing, the casting
Mm-hmm.
off.
Mm-hmm.
So we have ways to heal. Like music is healing. It's what they call energy work when people, you know,
Right.
brush you off with eagle feathers or branches or whatever, the rattles. Like some people will. It's all energy work. We're a walking chemical reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we hear the certain music, wavicles of energy go into our body and it shakes it up and it'll right us. It's a healing
Right.
music. Like music that's about drugs and violence and stuff, it's destroying you literally.
Mm.
That's why I get worried about some of the lyrics and some of the music that
Mm-hmm.
my granddaughters listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of those guys are saying, "Oh, you bitches and you hoes and stuff," you know, and I don't appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's reflecting society. And people say,
Right.
I have a right to reflect society." You do,
Mm-hmm.
but think about it: is it going to hurt somebody? If the
Mm-hmm.
answer is yes, you don't do it. If it's
Mm-hmm.
not, do it. I think more people need to ask themselves that question
Mm-hmm.
before they do something. Ask, is this going to hurt somebody or hurt Mother Earth?
Right.
If the answer is no, go ahead and do it. If yes, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So healing is our responsibility. We must, there's something wrong, I must go look for the help. or do something to help myself. In this COVID time, I heal myself. I got a sweat lodge outside my backyard. I go there once a week, go on there and sing, burn medicine to keep myself righteous.
Mm-hmm.
You see how I do music. I always have roots to chew on, or seeds, to keep my body strong, my immune system, because I want to be original.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I leave original, there's something wrong. If I start thinking negative, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I must heal from that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, everything's on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say over here, it's good. Over here, it's really bad. And in the middle, there's a big in between. So in healing work, there's a spectrum too. Some people, they're okay, but they still need a little bit. And there's a whole bunch in here that just don't know, but they need it. And then there's a whole bunch over here that really need healing. Like the guy with the knee on that guy's neck. That guy needs a healing.
Right.
And he's probably carrying anger since childhood.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we don't have any respect for humanity,
Mm-hmm.
we surely need a healing.
Right.
That person does not think about their family and what they think of him. He's just totally self-involved. He's self-centered. He needs a healing. And people will not want to heal him after he's done that deed.
Right.
And if he gets away with it, he's going to continue unless he gets a healing. In indigenous life before contact, if you didn't heal yourself or go look for healing, we took it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You had no choice
Mm-hmm.
because you're upsetting the balance of our circle. And it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so healing, even though I'm responsible for that, there's a time where people need to intervene. Intervention means to come between me and others that I might be harming, because I'm not going for healing. Because when we heal our mind, we want to be original. What's an original mind? That's the one that's not conniving or trying to get even or trying to get being greedy, that kind of stuff. So when it's original mind of helping others, enjoying life with others, that's a healthy mind. When people get self-centered, it's all about me or capital I, they really can get depressed quite easily or angry or afraid because they've accepted this is my life and only me. As soon as something goes against you, you're by yourself. That's why it's important for us to belong. So people can help us and we can help them. It goes back and forth.
Right.
Generosity is one of the foundations of indigenous harmonious lifestyles and sustainable lifestyle. Sustainable means it's going to be like that forever.
Mm-hmm.
When we're here by ourselves in North America, there's nothing going extinct.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have stuff going every day extinct.
Right.
Never see them again.
Right.
Because those people need a healing.
Mm-hmm.
The government of Canada needs a healing.
Yeah.
A lot of individuals need healing and they don't recognize that it's acceptable.
Right.
Like alcohol is acceptable substance in this society.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, well, that's a European culture. They grew up with alcohol and they drink alcohol at every event. Funerals, weddings, supper,
Every day.
everything, And I
Every
said,
day.
that's our culture. And we were driving by in Vancouver, this liquor store. I said, oh, there's a European Cultural Center.
Uh,
I was sort of poking fun at it, but I wanted the indigenous people to see that's not really our culture,
no.
And because I needed a big time healing just to recover from the ravages of alcohol in my body.
Yeah.
Because my skin was bad, my liver was taking a beating, lots of me wasn't right. So I had to purify myself. So the sweat lodges, running, doing all of that stuff was part of my healing process to be original again before the damage. See, that's what healing work is about. It's not just about upset tummy, skin problems, that kind of stuff. It's also about what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the critical areas.
Yeah.
Is to help people have a clear mind so we can see the beauty and feel it. And yeah. So there's music, there's plants, there's instruments of healing, there's words. A master is someone that can transform you with words. They say things and you get it. Oh yeah. It becomes like illuminates your mind. There are healers that just use words.
Yeah.
Then there's ones that use their hands. They can go around, they can feel where the blockages are in your system and press on it and free you up. Reiki, massage therapists, those kinds of people. So there's that kind of healing. And there's music healing. They say there's a note for every organ in our body. You play it consistently, it goes to that organ and it'll start to strengthen it. There's music, there's plants, there's instruments, there's the voice. Then one of the big ones is group healing, where we can all focus our energy on one person and help that person. It's positive thinking and sending out positive messages. That one with the hands is a powerful healing. Just with your hands. Because I think of the medicine I get like of a grandchild or somebody hugs me and holds me. That's powerful medicine.
Powerful medicine.
Yeah, because they're basically pure yet.
Yeah.
They still know how to manipulate and stuff like that. We're all like that. I'm gonna cry till you feed me.
You're smart.
Yeah. So those are the healing methodologies. Activity, positive activity is healing. Running. I ran thousands of miles. At first, I'm running away from. I'm writing a podcast. It's called Run, Say, Heal, Sit, Run. One of my names is Heal, Sit. And I was running away. But there are side benefits to get me on the road to healing. So it's okay, I was running away from my problems. At least I was running. Then I physically get stronger and mentally get stronger and I have endurance.
You're meditating.
Yes, I'm meditating and it's just all beautiful, and I used to love running. I love running early in the morning. And you can see the Kakwila, the break of the day. Shapes start to become clear and I'm running. Oh, I've had such wonderful experiences running. I was thinking one time I was running in Fraser River Park in Vancouver early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning in the summertime, and you could see. And there's this young man down the river playing his slide trombone, and I was running by and I listened to this music, and it's so beautiful, and some people might say, oh, that's negative. He shouldn't be doing that in a nice, quiet morning. But I thought he was playing good music.
If you want to play the trombone at 5 in the morning, you go for it. You're living your life.
Especially if you can do it good, And I was going, whoa, this is beautiful. And I was running until I couldn't hear him. Another time I was running in the Black Hills in South Dakota early in the morning. And I'm running up these hills. and there's clumps of trees all around. All of a sudden I see this turkey. First in my time in my life I seen a wild turkey. Comes out. Then two more come. I said, oh, that's Tom and his wives. And I stop and I'm just dead still and they're walking around, eating, doing that kind of stuff, being turkeys.
Yeah.
So I'm watching them. Then I just move a little bit and they disappear just like that. They're incredibly fast.
Whoa.
But I was going, whoa, looking at these turkeys. I've seen bears, coyotes, different things, and I go out running. And it's, I'd say of all the healing activities, that's the one I've done consistently and the most. Plus sweat lodges. I don't know how many I've done over the years, but I know that I love it, so I go to it all the time. And it helps me. So finding the activity. This is what I tell people, because people get confused, I feel anyway. And it's about this religiosity. They're thinking about a God or a creator. And they make appeals to that God or to that creator. I asked one of my elders, how do we say God? Because some of our people are saying Kukpi or Jesu Kli. They're talking about Christ or about, Christ's dad. I say, no, how did we say it? He said, oh, Quilshin. It means what holds everything together. There's not a human. There's no man, male, female. It's everything. What holds everything together. So that's what I started praying to connect to that. If you ever connect to that, it's paradise. I think that's what our Shwanams and our prophets and our philosophers, where they connected to that. Because you can connect to it if you don't have a lot of mental distractions, memories.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm working at that.
Me too.
To connect to that, and then, because I just imagine all that energy.
Yeah.
Just coursing through your body. And because I heard of the Shkuna'ams, those are the healers when I was a child. The powers that they had to help humanity. I've heard of healers. This one elder was telling me, yeah, the Shkuna'am went to visit the Shkuna'am one day, and the Shkuna'am's making medicine. He says, oh, who's that for? He says, oh, I seen that so-and-so needs some medicine. They're going to come and get it. That's from the next community, 2 days walk away. This is before, trains and stuff like that. He says, how do you know? He says, I just know. He finishes making the medicine and they're having tea, and then that person walks in. He says, I need help. I was just wondering if you, and he gives him the medicine. He says, I have it ready for you. And I heard that story, of course I get skeptical. I'm a human being. But I think that Shwana'am, he connected to the energy.
Connected.
Yeah. Grounded.
Grounded.
It's just like our old ceremonies, the afterbirth ceremony. They used to put the umbilical cord in a nice little bundle and stuff and put it into the earth or in the water and to connect the baby to the earth. And I asked my granny, she was a midwife, why do you guys do that? Oh, because she have a hard time to translate into English. She says, oh, we don't do that baby, when it grows up, it has a chance to go crazy. And I think about it today, I say, you're right, Granny. Just think how many of us have mental health problems today.
Right.
Because the earth keeps us alive. Used to be our mother when we were inside our mom, through that umbilical cord. She breathes for us, food for us, everything. So we can grow and develop inside our mom. As soon as we come out, our moms, in a way, is not keeping us alive. They carry us and nourish us. But now what keeps us alive and gives us oxygen and everything is the earth, Mother Earth. So it makes sense to connect that baby to Mother Earth. And they're connected. Beautiful ceremony when I think of it.
There are so many deep, profound, ancient, effective teachings in our ceremonies, in Indigenous ceremonies all over the world.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot available to us for healing, a lot of medicines, a lot of strength, a lot of power, a lot of knowledge for us to turn to. So, and even this conversation is good medicine. You know, I was feeling my generation with social media, we can get so wrapped up in the hype. And I think you mentioned it yesterday, or maybe it was when I was listening to your podcast, we can almost trigger each other. You know, our rage will trigger it. You know, I want to show that I'm upset because I am upset with the state of things. Very often I am upset, but then I'm maybe triggering other people. And then we're in this spiral of rage. Whereas the energy of this conversation has brought me right down. And it's available, you know, and it's available and it's effective. And so thanks for that.
Oh yeah, we build our base of all us righteously angry people get together and do something. Remember I was saying, and I said, somebody should do something, but we're somebody.
Right.
So we should do something. Whether it's writing a letter, emailing, or sing a song, do something positive about that issue. Because that's what it is, issues, you know, things that happened. That's what an issue is, something that happened that's negative usually. Well, what are we going to do about it? It's like with the men, what are we going to do? You know, we're going to talk to them. We're going to see if we can open their mind up to where they can accept reality and change their mind and find a way. I was downtown Eastside in Vancouver. I got some wonderful teachings from those homeless people. This one man said, I was taught, this is where I heard this teaching. This elder said, every day you wake up, you can change your mind. And I thought about that to myself, and I said, yeah, I done that. I woke up one day, no more drinking for Gerry. Woke up another day, no more street drugs for Gerry. Woke up another day, no more swearing, you know. I kept changing my mind, and it was good for me, you know.
Gerry, I've been seeing a lot on social media in this quarantine time. It's been actually quite inspiring, but people are, because now's this time to start a new routine, right?
Yeah,
so I've been seeing a lot of 30-day this or 10-day this. And I've tried that a couple times. Like, I'm going to hit the 30-day mark, or I'm going to do this. And then sometimes life just gets in the way, or it doesn't always work. So I started a new thing where if I go for a run, and running something I'm trying, I've been 2 runs in the last like 4 days or so. And it's hard work, but I've been trying to get into that good routine. But I realize I've posted on social media a couple times, day one, day one every day, day one every day. Because if I wake up again and I just try again, you know, what a beautiful gift.
Yes. And people see it in you. That's the biggest gift. Because as soon as you see somebody that's positive, it rubs off on you. You know, the last thing about healing I wanted to mention before it slips my mind is sacrifice. People, Indigenous people, just love to sacrifice. Sundance, sweat lodge, fasting. The one I wanted to mention as a powerful healer is fasting. Going without food and water. Or if you want to go with this liquid, a certain kind of liquid. But to cleanse your body inside, to burn up the negativity. Because when you fast, your body starts to eat itself. And it eats the negative first. That's how nature is designed. It's beautiful. Because I have fasted. 4, fasts without food and water
Mm-hmm.
in my life. But I've done, I don't know how many juice fasts. My longest
Mm-hmm.
juice fast was 10 days just living on juice.
Wow.
And I was purifying myself,
Right.
but also sacrificing, part of myself, like sacrifice. Like every time I've done a juice fast, the first thing I think of after 8 hours is, oh, geez, I'm wishing for a peanut butter sandwich or something.
I know.
But then when I sacrifice and I push through, it's a
Yeah.
gift for myself and for other people.
Yeah.
Because you think of all the indigenous people that have fasted to find the answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I heard that we had the sweat lodge, because people were struggling and they were not doing well. So this one person went out and fasted for an answer and had a vision
Mm-hmm.
of the sweat lodge, that we're to go in there and purify ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
meditate and look at ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
become part of the hoop or the sacred circle again. That we can do that because we're going in there. It's like going in to be babies.
Mm-hmm.
Sweat lodge, because it's like a pregnant woman. When you look at the shape of the sweat lodge,
Mm-hmm.
when you go in there and you're part of the objective is to become like a baby again, innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the baggage, garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that, people sacrifice to get it.
Mm-hmm.
They fasted. They lived by themselves for months and years at a time to find an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So part of our healing, we can start to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Go on a fast once in a while. Even if
Mm-hmm.
1-2 days, your body will appreciate it.
That's right.
Yeah. And
I've
you'll
done
learn.
one I've done one 4-day fast. I
Uh-huh.
have 3 more to go,
Yeah.
but I did that 4 days, no food, no water, and powerful, strong ceremonies. We have powerful ways because it's nature that tells us what to do. It's nature that told people about the power of plant medicines like ayahuasca and San Pedro down here in the south, right? They have different ceremonies, very connected though. And I think about this time of COVID-19, and sacrifice is a real big one, isn't it?
Yes. We're sacrificing all kinds of things, sitting down at Starbucks or whatever, and we're put in this place where we can look at ourselves
Right.
and decide what I'm going to change about myself. So when I get to the other side of this virus,
Mm,
that normal that used to be me it's going to change.
yeah.
It's going to be
Wow.
for the better. You see, so to take advantage of this time
Mm,
instead of getting mad about, oh, I can't go sit with my friends, I can't do this, but now is the time. If we look at this as a fast,
right.
because fasting is for purification and for healing. It's why people fast, or to find answers, solutions.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. And to be careful, if anybody's listening, to seek guidance if you want to do a fast and to seek that guidance.
Oh, nowadays especially.
Yeah.
Like I even tell people, I want, you better get a physical checkup first.
Yeah.
Because we've been beating ourselves up with bad food and substances and stuff,
Hmm.
and people's kidneys can be messed up already. Because fasting can be hard on the kidneys.
Hmm.
So, I'm glad you brought that up because
Hmm.
that's true. Your body will always know when's enough is enough.
Mm,
Like some people, they go for incredible, like you just think about Jesus. They said he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert
right.
because he was healthy. He could do
Right.
that.
Hmm.
Sound mind, body, and spirit. That's what healthy means. His mind is
Hmm.
good, his body is good, and his spirit is good. So
Hmm.
he could do that. There's could be no
Hmm.
harm. There,
Hmm.
yeah.
Look at this comment here, Gerry. We've been getting lots of comments along the way. So, we'll have to have a look back. Lots of love for you, a lot of gratitude today. Lots of
Uh-huh.
people have been just joining along this whole time. We have a friend here that says, Fasting is a powerful tool to rejuvenate good body cells. We as Muslims do 30-day fast in Ramadan and more each month, 3 days minimum. So yeah, fasting is a part of a lot of different cultures, hey, and traditions across the world. But we've hit the 2 hour mark, so I think we should
Oh,
come full circle. If I want to give you a chance, if you want to share any other thoughts today, anything else that's on your heart or your mind. I don't have
well,
anything else to say, but thank you. Hi, so much for your time and for
yeah,
everybody along.
I just like to thank all of you that come on board today.
Yeah,
The our people thank people for answering the call.
yeah.
You know, because this whole conversation is about healing and change.
Mm-hmm.
That's how healing starts, is when we put it in our mind we're going to change. I'm going to leave this behind. You know, I'm a better person. I come from beautiful people, and we all do. Literally, we all come from beautiful people. At one time on this whole planet, we're all tribal and clan people. You know, and now is a time of responsibility, which means we're able to respond, and we must do that because there are ones watching us, and it's the children. How are we going to respond to this crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Because crisis is a turning point. You know, and which way we're going to turn, how we're going to handle this. We're going to do it on the high road. You know, that's how those kids are going to be when they come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And if it ever hits them, like my dad and them faced the Second World War against Nazism and the Spanish flu,
Mm-hmm.
and they survived. And before that, my great grandfather faced the smallpox,
Mm-hmm.
and we survived that. So we can all do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thank you for being here today to trigger the thoughts that I've been sharing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I'm passing down teachings that were passed to me. And I was told it's your responsibility to lay teachings at the feet of people, especially when you get to be elder status. And you don't ask for anything for that, because it was freely given to me. You know, elders would sit me down and talk to me. You know, one of my favorite stories I heard about parenting was this old lady. I were in a workshop, and went in to eat, and we're eating in this nice restaurant, and she comes in. Oh, I'm going to sit with you, nephew. Okay. And she starts telling me a story. And she says, you know, I got, I had children. I have children. But when they were little, my mom would come in, would see me. Oh, there's my monster. First time she said that, I just looked at her and I just kept going. But every time she would see me, she'd say, oh, there's my monster. And it started getting me angry. Why are you calling me a monster?
Mm-hmm.
Way of raising my grandchildren. I feed them, I do everything for them. And then she'd walk away. And one time she's at a public gathering. She walks in and her mother says, oh, there's my monster. And she got fed up and went to talk to her. And she said, why do you call me a monster? I told you how I raise my kids. I do everything for them. I cook for them. I do their laundry. I fold their clothes. I sweep the floor. I do everything. And the mother says, exactly. She says, you might as well cut off the arms and legs of my grandchildren. How are they ever going to learn?
Mm-hmm.
And that old lady got a glint in her eye. And she says, I quit being a monster. And my kids didn't like it because they have to wash dishes now and sweep the floor and do stuff. But she says today now, they have a job, they have a family, they got their own house
Right.
because they stopped being a monster. So let's not be monsters for this younger generation coming behind us. Let's teach them about responsibility and value, that they're valuable people. Let's not let them get consumed by the few negative actions of sick people in this world. Like my host says about the man with his knee on the neck of somebody and killed him. Don't give that man too much power. Or people like him. Give the power to the children. I'd like to sing this song that they call it about the cycle of life. Hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh. Gonna sing for all the little baby girls been born today, that they don't have to deal with addictions or violence. Hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh. Hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh. For all those baby boys been born today, that they have a purpose, that they have a way. Hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh. Hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, oh, oh, hey ya, hey yo, oh, hey yo, oh, hey yo. Woo-hee. All right.
Hi, hi. I didn't leave. I've been here. Just
Okay, so nice to spend time with you and share time on the air. Because remember, it's teachings in the air. Everything we know comes through the air.
yeah.
Everything we know in life, music, knowledge, everything comes through the air. So we just need to watch for it and catch it when it comes. The good stuff. Everything comes through the air. Everything I know came through the air. I see it, I smell it, I hear it, I touch it. It comes through the air. Then I absorb it. Then I reflect back what I've absorbed. And I'm busy now going around collecting positive energy, positive messages, so I can become an echo about positivity. So let's all do that.
I'm with you.
Yeah, tap away.
Tap Waywin. This whole conversation's been pure Tap Waywin. Thank you so much. Love, love, love to you. Love to you all. Take good care.
Okay.